Tonight's lesson is just a quick review on some of the integer information you learned in 6th grade. I'm hopeful by the end of this video you will be reminded of how to identify an integer and its opposite, use integers to represent quantities in the real world, explain how 0 fits into situations represented by integers, and find the absolute value of signed numbers. First, let's look at this definition. The opposite of a number. Numbers that are the same distance from 0 in opposite directions. Those are called opposite numbers. They're also called additive inverses. So -3 might represent a $3 loss. +3 would represent a $3 gain. And those are opposite numbers because they're on opposite sides of 0 and they are the same distance from 0. You can see -3 is 3 units to the left of 0 and +3 is 3 units to the right of 0. Those are opposite numbers. So let's talk about now what integers are. Now that we know what opposite numbers are, integers are all of the whole numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and all of their opposites. 3 is the opposite of -3. So here's our integers, our whole numbers starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, and their opposites. Opposite of 1 is -1. Opposite of 2 is -2. Opposite of 0 is 0. So there you have your integers. What I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to name the opposite of each of the following integers. I'd like you to pause the video, see if you can name the opposite of each, and then come on back. All right. Hopefully you paused the video. Let's talk about the opposite of -1. Well, if I look here at -1, the opposite of -1 would be the same distance to 0, but on the opposite side of 0. So there you go, it's a +1. What's the opposite of 0? Well, it's got to be the same distance from 0. Opposite of 0 is just 0. Opposite of +2? How far is +2 from 0? 2 units to the right of 0. Therefore, the opposite or the additive inverse of +2 is a -2. 2 units to the left of 0. And again, if we look at -5 right here, that's 5 units to the left of 0. So where do we have 5 units to the right of 0? That would be a +5. Same distance. The distance is still 5. Opposite sides of 0. They're also called additive inverses. Let's talk about absolute value. Again, these are all items that concepts you've learned in the past. I just want to remind you of them. Absolute value is just the distance a number is from 0 on a number line. The symbol is 2 straight bars with the number in between. For example, the absolute value of 5 is 5, and the absolute value of -5 is also 5. And here's why. Absolute value just represents your distance from 0. So if you're over here at a +5, how far from 0 are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. It just happens to be in the positive direction. And then the absolute value of -5, well, how far is -5 from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just happens to be going in the negative direction. So the absolute value of -5 is also 5 because absolute value is just how far am I from 0. Either way, you're 5 units from 0. What I'd like you to do is take a moment, pause the video. You're going to find the absolute value of each of the following. Pause the video, try it out, come on back. All right, hopefully you paused the video. Absolute value of 4, well, how far is 4 from 0 on a number line? Let's take a look. 4 simply is 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the right of 0. So that's 4. How far is -4 from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4 units. It happens to be to the left of 0, but that's okay. All we care about is distances. And distances are always positive. It happens to be 4 units to the left of 0. What's the absolute value of 0? How far is 0 from 0 on the number line? You don't have to go anywhere. The absolute value of 0 is 0. Hopefully these are reminding you what you already know from 6th grade. Let's talk about temperature. Positive numbers are used to measure temperatures above 0. So right here, that would be 40 degrees. Positive numbers represent temperatures above 0. So what do negative represent? Those are our temperatures below 0. So if you are 20 units below 0, the temperature is negative 20 degrees. You probably see that on the news, especially in the wintertime. Not that cold here, but a lot of times it's 5 below, or the wind chill will be 5 below. Another place where we see integers is when we talk about sea level. Positive numbers are used to measure above sea level. So this iceberg might be, 20 meters above sea level. And negative numbers are used to represent below sea level because this iceberg actually goes very far beneath the surface. It might be 50 meters below sea level. Could be the bottom of that iceberg. And if you were right at sea level, guess what that would represent? 0. This right here is sea level. And if you're at sea level, that's 0. I want you to take a look at this example, and I just want you to write an integer that could describe each of the following. There's the scuba diver. He says, I'm scuba diving. I'm below sea level. So I just want you to pick an integer that could represent where that diver is in reference to sea level. That boat says, I'm sailing, so I'm at sea level. I want an integer that could be represented, that could represent that situation. And then that hiker says, I'm hiking, I'm up above sea level. Again, just give me an integer that could possibly represent where that hiker is in reference to sea level. Take a minute, pause the video, try it out, come on back. All right, hopefully you paused the video. So if this is sea level, guess what? Sea level, you don't have any options. That would be 0. Sea level means 0. Up above sea level, I don't know, that hiker could represent positive 10 meters above sea level. Scuba diver, that could represent negative 10 meters. That could be 10 meters below sea level. So negative 10 would be the integer. It simply means below sea level. The negative says below. The 10 tells you how far below. The positive 10 says above. The positive means above. 10 is how far above sea level. And if you're right at sea level, that's what that 0 is for. I also want you to realize if you don't see a negative or positive sign in front of a number, that means it's positive. So if you see a 9, that means it's a positive 9. So just remember that. Negative numbers will always have that negative sign in front, but positive numbers, it's optional. I'd like you to finish off tonight by writing an integer to represent each situation. 15 degrees above 0, a loss of $11, a gain of 8 points in a game, 3 steps backwards. What I'd like you to do is take a moment, pause the video, try it out, and then come on back. All right, hopefully you saw 15 degrees above 0 would be a positive 15, or you could just write that as 15. A loss means negative. A loss of how much? $11. That would be negative 11. A gain of 8 points. Gain means positive. So that would be positive 8, or you could just write that as 8. Backwards, you're going backwards, that's negative. 3 steps backwards would be negative 3. Hopefully that's a good review from some of what you learned in 6th grade. I know you learned so much more about integers, but it's just a refresher of some important facts you needed, some important material. Try to have a good night. Take care. See you tomorrow.